Welcome to the Scaling Creative Podcast.
Welcome.
We're excited. It's been a little bit.
It's good to be
Been
back.
a hot minute.
A solid
Good to be
month.
back. That's
You
right.
know how with television shows, they take that little break?
They take a long break. It's like Thanksgiving all the way
Really
through
long.
like February.
Yeah.
That's so true.
So we just had a little
All right.
mid-season break.
We had to talk with the producers about a little
Yeah.
break and not at all.
You know.
But no, it's good to be back.
Last
Very
time
good.
we had wine,
Yes.
which I think I prefer.
Right now it's early in the morning, so we decided
Oh,
to
yeah.
stick with coffee. So last episode was a little bit later in the day. So later, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon later. Plenty later. Now.
Hey, you could do wine early.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
A little grape juice in the morning.
Right. Yeah, but
But I'm
we're
excited
excited to be
about
back.
this topic.
Yes.
Yes.
This is a good one.
So we decided on this specific topic because yesterday, you want to tell them your experience?
Yeah, yesterday and I think a lot of days
Right.
we were in like a local business and just kind of chatting with the people. Like we like to make friends with people, but kind of just nonchalantly ask, how you doing? And I always joke with people and I always say like anytime someone asks me like how I am, I'm always like living the dream because like that's how I feel.
Right.
But so I jokingly was kind of saying that to someone like, how you doing? Living the dream? And I was like living my quote nightmare and kind of laugh like, cause you're not going to be like, well, geez.
Yeah.
But yet that's how most people feel like in their jobs. And so instantly we were like, we need to record a podcast about
how to
people that
not hate
hate
your
their job. Yeah. How to not hate your job.
Yeah.
Because there are solutions. And this is just a situation that I feel like I see everyone in. Mm-hmm. The amount of people that just are not happy and doing nothing. That's what I want to talk
Right.
It's true.
about, to improve it.
Yeah. Because discontent, I think if you're discontent without it, you'll be discontent with it because being discontent is a mindset. And if that's something that you're not working on, then because here's the thing, let's say in your job, you hate your job and you're super unhappy there. And you think, well, as soon as I get this job, fill in the blank, then I'll be content. Then I'll be happy.
Or if I had that person's
Yeah. Or if I had that person's life, or, if I was married, or like all these different things. But if you can't be content in your current place of work, whatever it is, I guarantee you when you get the thing, it's not going to fulfill you because it's a mindset. You didn't work on that.
Yeah, people just treat happiness like it's a destination or like, oh, it's around the corner. Like once I get there, I'll get, and it's a decision is all it is. It's something that you can actually decide to do. And if your current situation isn't something that's making you happy, it's true. There's so many people that just live as if they're sitting on a nail and they're like, oh, it doesn't hurt bad enough for me to move. It's just enough that, I'm just uncomfortable, but whatever. And I'm like, man, there's so many things you could be doing to change your situation, which will then help you to get out of where the situation you're in.
Some people I think are just, they look at what it would take to get out of the situation.
Right.
And that seems more work and more just out of the realm of possibility.
Yep.
So they just stay stuck because people are just impatient.
Yeah.
And the whole conversation about this topic just comes down to patience, like knowing you can get out of your situation and you can plan to do what you want, but not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I've heard someone
say that where until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, until then you won't change. You know what I mean?
But I also think that I don't really know if you should actually have to get to that point. I don't think you have to get to the point where it's so painful that you have to change. But I just read a book, which I'm sure is shocking to you guys.
Yes, very shocking.
But it's called The Now Habit. And it was actually written a really long time ago. There's like a new updated version of it out. I think his name is Neil Fiore. But anyways, it's all about essentially how to not procrastinate and the reason why we procrastinate. And that this mindset holds people back when if we would just start now doing a small thing, whether it is changing your mind, whether it's, having a new affirmation. One thing I'm working on right now is morning words that I say to myself, but then also start of the workday words, because your brain is so incredibly powerful. And whatever you say internally, like, the world around you just comes to prove it. Right. So if you say like, I hate my job or not living the dream, I'm more like living the nightmare, then that's what's going to happen. Because what you focus on magnifies and multiplies.
It's true.
So, but yeah, this book, The Now Habit, was really about learning why you procrastinate and how to switch a few things around so that you go from a procrastinator to a producer. But so much of it is internal.
Oh yeah.
And I just think people don't realize that your current nightmare of a job will never not suddenly become a nightmare with you doing nothing different than what you already are doing. That's just the part that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not saying that there's any way that everyone can be in their job and loving their job.
Yeah.
But your job that you walk into and know is your nightmare job will never suddenly you wake up and you're going to be like, you know what? This is actually my dream. Yeah. Like, it's a mindset, but it's also just the reality of, like, if it's actually a nightmare and you really don't want to actually be there, you better what are you doing to make sure you don't stay there? Because it's not just it doesn't just get better.
Yeah.
And so I think there's lots of practicals that I hope, people can take away from this, but it just is crazy to me because like, I've been in this situation before where I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted. So I made the decision to say, 3 years from now, I'm still not going to be doing what I want if I'm still doing the same thing.
Right.
So I need to start now doing something so that 3 years from now, I'm not doing the same thing.
Right.
And that's what it is. But it's the patience. And I think people also just don't have that.
Right.
They know what it would take. Like, people all the time ask about YouTube and about different things about, like, well, how do I start? I'm like, well, you start making hundreds of videos and no one watches and no one watches. Then eventually people watch and they're like, that just I want it to happen now.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. And
Right.
neither does going to your dream job, starting your own business. You don't decide you're going to start a business and tomorrow you quit your job and start the business and then be like, uh-oh, now what? You build
Yeah.
so that you eventually can make that your job.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just they get scared of like being in like the stepping stone phase where it's like, you can easily just be, it's okay to be in the stepping stone phase, but in the background, you should always be, working to get to where it is you want to get to. I think people are just, they're so focused on where they're at when they can be doing things in the background to get somewhere else. And I remember when I was 18, I actually heard someone tell me that to find what it is you love to do and find a way to make a living doing it. And that has stayed with me for years. And now I find ways to always do what it is I love, but to make a living doing it. And I think that I have a big belief that everybody has a gift. And they have a gift for a reason. And if you can find a way to make money using that gift, so it feels as if like, okay, this is like almost purposeful now in a way. I think it's really important to find that thing that you love, because if you love to do it naturally, imagine getting paid for it.
And the beginning is always hard.
Always.
Anything. There's this one, I can't remember what Olympic swimmer it was, but she said that she's doing what she loves, but there are two things that she hates the most in life, and it is mornings and cold water. And every single morning, swimmers, like, they get up really early in the morning and they jump into cold water.
Right.
And those are her two least favorite things, but it's also a part of her dream. So just because you have maybe this dream, like, sometimes it takes doing the hard stuff that you don't actually like, but being committed to it because you see a bigger purpose. Like, if you're chopping down a tree, right, it's going to take you quite a few swings, and it's not the last swing that makes the tree fall down. It's all of the ones stacked up. So it takes a lot of little bits of effort to actually make the thing work.
It's true.
And I think the important thing too regarding all that is, like, to realize that no matter how much you love what you do, there are also just going to be days that things aren't great. And during those times, it's trying to remember that, like, where you're currently at is actually where you said you wanted to be a while ago. And so as bad as it feels in that current horror situation, it's like, if someone were to ask me 3 years ago, would I love to be in the situation I'm in? And I would say yes. Yeah. Well, then it's my problem and something I need to physically work on to be able to remind myself that, like, it's not always perfect.
Right.
And that's just the reality. I see a lot of people that, like, the minute one thing isn't what they want. It's like, I need to make a change, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and this. I've seen people go from job to job to job to job, where they're like, I finally got my dream job, and like 3 months later, they're like, I just feel like this isn't working, and I'm like, that's an internal problem.
Yes,
that is not. The job didn't get worse. It was the one you wanted, and then just human instinct. You aren't content, and you move on, and you need something else and something else.
Right.
But it's just not always perfect.
Right.
And if you are in that mindset, you're never going to be in a dream situation, because dream situations only look good when you're seeing them from the outside. Like, I see someone's situation, I'm like, that would be so nice to have, but they're probably looking at other situations saying the same thing.
Always.
For sure.
Like,
I was going to say that I think you guys didn't necessarily do this, I don't think, but so many people go to college because they think that's what they're supposed to do, and they go into careers that either they feel like their parents wanted them to go into, or this is what everybody else is doing, kind of thing. And I really believe that so many people go to college and get degrees in something they don't actually even like, and then they get jobs that they're not happy in because they didn't actually follow their heart or their, what was internal for them.
Right.
Or they weren't allowed to experiment and try to figure that out. So I graduated college with a bachelor's in American Sign Language Interpreting, right? Which and we're not going to go into that, but come out of college, get the job that I'm supposed to get because of the degree that I got. And every single morning waking up and just thinking, again, doing something that I actually don't want to do. And so I started doing my side job. And I worked every Saturday because that was the only time that I had. And I specifically worked very strategically that day. And in 6 months, I really changed a lot of things in my life. And then I was able to leave my job because I had replaced my income. So, but there were a lot of days I didn't really want to take my Saturday. I worked all week.
Right.
Super involved in my church on Sunday. So it was like that sacrifice to give up my Saturday for a greater good because I wanted to change my situation.
Yeah, and realizing that you either could give up the Saturday that you really didn't want to give up, or a year later be saying the exact same thing that you were saying a year ago, which is, I hate the situation I'm in.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the difference. It's like, that's why I'm here today. That's why so many of us are here today in the exact same situation. It's like, you had to eventually make a decision that said, this isn't going to work for me forever. Therefore, what do I have to do to make it not?
Yes.
And then realize that in the middle is called work.
Yeah.
It's called working a ton, even when you don't want, because what's worse? Being in the same situation years later and still hating it, or sacrificing short-term time, which is really all it is at the beginning.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Just short-term time, saying like, I work 7 days a week, but it's only for a season, so that I don't have to currently do it anymore.
Right.
And that's what people don't want to do.
Yeah. And now I'm not in that career anymore, but that was definitely a stepping stone for me to like learn leadership and how to speak in front of a group of people. And so I took so much from that season, and being an entrepreneur, I learned so many skills that I'm able to utilize in other ways. I think we're so afraid of picking the perfect thing. It has to be this perfect purpose, when I think there are several adequate starting points. Right. You don't need the perfect one.
Yep.
I think there's this false perfection that everyone is so afraid to step. There's several adequate starting points.
And it's a mindset of whether or not the situation you're in, whether you like it or not, whether you are learning from the situation. Being in a terrible job that you don't like at all, but if you work for somebody and you're in a terrible job that you hate, but you ultimately want to be a boss and you want to eventually run your own business, you do realize you can learn some things while you're there at the job you hate, right?
Always.
That will help you when you eventually be that situation.
Yeah.
And so if you can just switch that mindset of like, I don't love the job I'm in, I don't love it whatsoever, but number one, it pays me money, which is pretty important.
Yep.
Number two, when you got interviewed for that job, they trusted that you were going to work for the salary that you're paying, and it's disrespectful to even check out of a job.
Yeah.
When like they didn't hire you to check out of the job. They hired you to do the job.
Right.
Do the best you can when you're there and learn from it and then apply it, because you can learn from any situation you're in. It doesn't matter good or bad.
Right.
But you have to decide
Right.
if you want to.
Right.
You can either sit in the back and be like, I hate this place. I'm not even going to pay attention.
Right.
You can learn. You can learn from great leaders, terrible leaders, great jobs, terrible jobs. There's always ways to learn. And if you actually think about that during your hustle, if you know that years from now you want to own your own business, study the situation you're in.
Yeah.
Here's some things I want to do better when I'm a boss, or
Yes.
here's some things I really like from this leader, even though I don't like the job. Because when you get in it, you need some experience, because you're getting into, when you become a boss for the first time, you've never been a boss of people.
Yep.
You're going to your only bank of knowledge you have, which is probably experience.
Yes.
Everyone either is a terrible leader from terrible leadership, or they get better by modeling other ones.
Yeah.
Your attitude is everything, I think, with this kind of stuff. It's just having a good attitude and understanding, like exactly like what you just said. It's like not every single situation, just because it's bad doesn't mean you can't learn something. You can always learn something from any situation, from any person.
Absolutely.
And it's just a matter of, I always like look at life kind of like you keep the gold nuggets and you leave the rest. But like there's so many gold nuggets and things that people think are negative, but it's actually, I look at it as feedback, or as you're learning from what you're, okay, well, he's perfect. I'm not going to do that because look what happened.
Yeah.
You know, you learn from those things, and people just have bad attitudes about stuff all the time.
And write it down, I think.
That's true.
Because when I started journaling, I can look back, and it's amazing the things that you forget if you don't write
Things
it
you
down.
said you wanted a year
The
later,
things
then you got, and you're like, this is terrible. Wait, I did say it.
Yeah, it keeps you keeps you accountable.
Yeah.
True.
You know, and then you can also look at, like, sometimes if I'm in a bad place and in my mindset, or I'm like saying I have to do this, or I have to do this, or I need to do this, the term I have to or I should, the Neil Fiore says should is the language of depression. I should fill in the blank. I should work out. What that's saying to your brain is you should, but you don't want to. And so instead you can say, I get to work out, or I'm choosing to work out, or
Right.
I get to go to my job. And if you change that in your head, it actually helps you, your joy and your
And
happiness.
should turns into should have, which is regret.
Yes. Yeah.
Down the road.
You know, my mom always
That's
told
all
me.
you say is, I should have done this.
Yes.
And now you can't ever
And
do
that
it again.
and that right there
Regret.
scares me. I've talked to
Yeah.
older
It should
people
be.
Oh, I know.
that are like in their 70s or whatever, and they're just like, man, I
No one ever
should
says the
have.
things that they remember they loved. It's all regret.
Yeah.
It's all regret. I don't ever want to get to a certain age and be like, man, if I had only, I wish I should have.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
scares me. Actually,
Yeah.
scares me. That
I would
kind of stuff.
legit rather look back and be like, what a terrible decision. But I tried
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But I tried
I
it.
tried
Yeah.
it. Sure.
Rather than, man, what I would do to
Yes.
go back. And that's why, like, you know, the one guy that works with us, Ben, it's like he's a great analogy of made a big decision
Yep.
to change things, to move around, to do things. But
Yep.
if it all failed and he moved back at any given point, it's like he tried and went after what he wanted
Yeah.
to go after.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's no harm in that, especially at a young age. There's so many people that are in their 20s that are like, man, I just feel like I'm going to be stuck here forever, and this is such a terrible situation. Like, you have a lot of life left to
Yes.
live. I mean, Lord
Yeah.
willing, you don't die of something
Right.
else, but it's
Right.
like we're all going to live fairly long if it all works out, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, you have time. It's okay to do something for 3 years and realize it was a waste of time, which is why, like, people that go to college and they don't really know what they want to do, but they're spending money in college, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
graduate high school and just get a job. And because you also know what you want to do once you do things you really don't.
Yes.
And then instead of wasting money trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
just work a job out of high school or get an internship or do something. Because right away you'll know, I could do this
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Or this is not. And then you didn't waste money doing it.
Right.
Intern right away without a job for someone that's doing what you think you actually want to do.
Yeah.
You'll know real quickly
Work
if
for
you
free.
want to do it.
Work for
Yes.
free. Just that's all you need to do. Get your hands dirty and learn and work
Yep.
for free. You don't have to actually. So I feel like people who study too much, they don't actually do anything. You need to actually get out and do stuff
Yeah,
and learn from people that are doing it.
Yeah, I think
Right.
people can look
Simple.
at someone's situation and just think to themselves, like, they seem so happy. They seem like that's what I want to do. They don't see anything else. They only
Right.
see
Right.
people's highlight reels on things that sometimes they don't realize that the entrepreneur that you're modeling your life after has a family that's falling apart or has a situation that is terrible or they're an alcoholic and you don't even know it.
Right.
Because you're seeing what looks like success and they're looking at someone else's success of like, and they're a failure in their own opinion.
Right.
Right.
Which is why comparison is
Yeah.
is just such a horrible thing, because also my passion is going to be different than your passion because we were created differently.
Right.
You know, and even though we're similar in a lot of ways, but we each have unique purpose.
Yep.
Right.
And so if you're comparing your purpose to someone else, like they're running in the lane that they maybe should be running in, but that doesn't mean that has to be your lane. Have I ever talked about my theory about school?
No, but I'm excited.
Okay.
Likewise.
This is my
Please
theory.
continue.
That there should be a year in between high school and college, right? So you have
Okay.
12 months
Yep.
where you'd pick 4 things and you do a 3-month internship in all 4 of those things.
Okay.
And then maybe go to college, but get some experience. Because I know if I shadowed a sign language interpreter for 3 months, I'd be like, nope, this is not what I'm going to school for.
Right.
So, but I didn't know. And then I got to a place where I remember we started shadowing people my junior year of college. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this, but I don't want to change majors because I don't want to be stuck here for all this debt. And, and I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
I wish I would have thought about this, or just lived it for a little bit. So that's my theory.
And well, here's the thing. The theory exists. Like it's called You Can Do That.
Right.
Anyone can do that.
There are people who do that.
But there at my school, like you did not do that.
Well, most people don't. You know why? Because most people are impatient and they don't like the idea of knowing that, like, if I graduate high school and immediately go to college, then I have 4 years until I get a job. They don't like the idea of being like, now it'd be 5 years because now I'm 1 year behind already. And once again, comparison, they look at the person that got the job already and they're like, I'm now behind. No, you're really young.
It's all mindset.
When you're 19 years old and 20 years old and 21. And that's why there's still people that will be in school for 6-8 years because they've changed things a million times. And it's like, you're way behind just because you still don't even know at this point probably what you want to do.
That's right.
But it's so you can get a free internship at any company in the world for the most part, honestly. Like everyone's going to hire a free intern.
Yeah.
Like
show for free and work.
Pretty easy if you actually want to learn and they realize there's not all these alternative motives of like, no, you legit want to experience what it's like to see if you want to do it. But I just think people don't want to do it. Yeah. And they don't.
Yeah.
They'd rather complain about a situation than do anything to improve it. It's just easier. It's much easier to complain. And I can be a complainer. It's much easier to complain than to actually like have a solution to something. But
yeah, which is why it's important to have good people around you.
Yeah.
Because, there are some times where we keep each other in check.
Sure.
And accountability is a huge piece of change. So let's give people some practical advice.
I want to first go back to the journal thing you said, because I do think this is very important. I have a digital journal that I've been using since 2014 called Day One. It's an app for the iPhone, iPad, whatever. And I do agree that it's very, very important to, even if you don't like daily journal or like just whenever the heck you want.
Right.
I probably have I'd maybe do like 50 a year, 60 a year, but I can go back since February 2014 when I got my full-time job at the church. I have documented personally my journey, and I think it's incredibly important because
it is
when you go back, because with the digital version, what I like is that every time you open the app, it'll say like on this day, whatever years ago, and you can look at what you wrote.
Yeah.
And you could also have it send you a push notification of like whenever it is there's something that happened on that day.
Yeah.
But it's really important to look back to see what you were dreaming of or praying for or thinking about or that you thought was going to be great. Because it can be a really good reality check of like, yesterday I complained that I was in this situation, but for a year straight I wrote about how I wanted to be in this situation. So this isn't the situation's fault. This is my fault.
Yeah.
right.
And you can't always do that. Like you can't always, without journaling or actually looking back at what you legit wrote.
Yeah.
You don't remember exactly how you felt in 2014, 15
Right.
or further.
Right.
But when you look back at what you wrote or what you said, it really helps you to have this reminder of like, yeah, this
Puts
is
you in
just
your own
still,
place.
or you can look back and be like 6 years later, I'm still complaining about that nonsense.
Yep.
I need to work on the not complaining.
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
try to blame things on other
Right.
people.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. I do think that, and I think that's also a practical tip of like
I was just
wherever
gonna say,
you're at.
that's great.
Start journaling
Yeah.
for your own benefit.
Yep.
I also think there's value, like we talk about all the time, of documenting on YouTube and all that because it's cool to look back. But
course.
start journaling exactly the situation you're in because it also will keep you accountable. Of 6 months ago I said I was going to start making a progress, and have I done anything to do it?
My wife does that. She has an entire, we don't have to stay on this topic long, but she has an entire bookshelf in our house that literally, if you just looked, you would see all her journals all the way across, and it just says from month to month this year,
Yeah.
from month to month this year. She has so many, and literally conversations she's having now with people. She's like looking back 4 or 5 years ago of like, I wrote that down,
Yep.
like
Yep.
crazy
Yep.
stuff. So yeah, anyway,
It's
not
great.
to live on it long, but
No, yeah,
journal.
But I
for
think
sure.
it is a great practical tip.
I think, yeah, for sure. And one of the things I want to add to that, this could be like a tip 1.5,
Okay.
is when you're journaling, one of the first things that I like to do is, we'll just use it for the job. So the
Sure.
job that you're going to is to write things that you're grateful for. So a gratitude list every single day.
Okay.
Because if that's what you're focused on, that is just what multiplies.
Yeah.
So if in your journal or wherever, maybe it's just even an index card, I don't
Sure.
know. Just write down the things that you're grateful for, even if it's just 3 things
Yeah.
that you love about that job or you're grateful that
Sure,
job
sure.
provides for you.
Yeah. And
That
one
would
of them
be a
should always be
practical.
money. Like, just be thankful, even if your situation is
Yeah.
horrible and you have a job. You know how many people are unemployed that would love your terrible nightmare that
Yeah.
you're living?
Yeah.
Just because they can't afford to put food on the table because
Right.
they can't find a job. Like,
Yeah.
You have something.
there's gratitude.
Yeah.
That's why
Oh,
I can't
absolutely.
stand when people are like that, because I know a lot of people that need jobs.
I know.
And they probably do something, even though they hate it, just because they need a job. Be
Yeah.
grateful that you have one. That's a great starting point.
Yeah, for sure. So I work out really early in the morning, and not every day do I want to be there. Like this morning, I did not want to get up at 5:30 and go to bar 3. Like I did not want to do it.
Right.
But I always say to myself, there are some people that literally can't get out of bed
Right.
or go work out.
Right.
And it completely, almost immediately changes how I'm feeling.
Sobers you.
Right?
I was like,
Yeah,
it
it really
sobers you up. You're like,
does. I'm like, I walk in with a completely different mindset.
Right, right.
I get to be here. I get to move my body
Mm-hmm.
in a way that not everybody is able to do. So what a blessing.
Definitely a mindset.
I think it's also just good to be grateful for the bad things too, because I've never gotten out of a bad thing and not learned something. I think we talked about this, but it's just like, there are things that like aren't great, but like even though you're writing a grateful list, like write the stuff that sucks too. Just write it down and see what it is, because I'm sure you'll come out of it stronger, better, understanding more, like learning, like, well, that sucked. I'm not going to do that again. Like
Yeah.
that right there is a blessing in itself. Like people
Yes.
don't realize that stuff at all. So I think it's important just to write everything down, including the grateful things, but also the stuff that just sucks as well.
Right.
Because you'll be grateful for it later.
Yeah.
What's another practical
Second practical would be, in my opinion, like really look at what do I want to do? What do I think would be my dream job? And what is the step that I can take today to start the process of doing it? Don't look and say, I want to eventually own my business and make $1 million, because that's such a massive goal
Yes.
Right.
that it becomes overwhelming that you end up doing nothing. If your goal is to start a business and you don't have any sort of time of when, but let's just say you say 2 years or whatever, what can you do today?
day? Yeah.
Big or small?
Yes.
Even if it's, I'm going to set up a meeting with someone that I know does it and learn how they started from the beginning.
Yep.
Set up a meeting, listen to a podcast, find someone that you look up to in some way. Start small.
Yeah.
And start to just do something about it. Instead of, or maybe it's a mindset that you go and you're like, today I'm going to go into the job I hate and I'm going to start studying how I can do things better eventually. But just take baby steps. Too many people try to go from zero to hero.
Yeah.
They get discouraged and they're like, I'm never going to
Right.
I'm never going to run my own business.
That's why people procrastinate, is because
Yeah.
they get overwhelmed. It's too
Yep.
big. So instead of, anytime you say to yourself, I'm overwhelmed, or this is so big, I have so much to do. Anytime you say that to yourself, just say, reframe it. What can I do right now? What's one thing I can do today, like you said?
Well, it's like, and that book, Atomic Habits, that I still haven't read, but I am familiar with what the book says.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about that kind of stuff, about like little things.
Yep.
So something as simple as scheduling a 30-minute phone call with someone is just like, listen, I'm like, I don't even know what I'm talking about yet, but I'm just like, I know one day I want to start a business. I know you do it.
Right.
Like, just learn. Like, be a constant learner.
Yes.
Jot down stuff. Jot down those journal ideas and all that kind of stuff. But think about little things, and little things become bigger.
Yes.
You don't start working out and do a 2-hour workout the first time. But as you do a 3-minute workout and a 6-minute workout and a 9-minute, you want to do more.
Yeah.
Which, like, just I think is important to think about what steps it took.
Yeah, I think people are always looking at life through this lens of like, oh, where I'll be, the big goal or whatever. But like, if you look, I've noticed, like, if you look in the mirror, all you can see is yourself. You don't see forward. You just see yourself. And I think if you just look at yourself, the first thing you can look at is, how do I bring value to what I'm doing? And so if you're in your job that you don't like you just said, I think it's important to actually look at, okay, how can I bring value to this? Because then if I learn how to bring value to something that I hate, imagine if I could bring value to something that I love.
Yep.
And so learning how to, the market, the world, whatever, pays you for value. If you bring value to a situation, someone's going to pay you for that at some point for something. And I think that that's what people need to focus on a little bit more, is just the actual value that they bring in the small stuff, because that will then transcend to like what actually happens later.
Yep.
It's all about value.
And I think the lesson 2.5 in that is, maybe you're in a job you don't like, but there's a position in the job that you would. I don't want ever to discourage people into thinking that you always should look to own your own business.
True.
At all.
Right.
You shouldn't. Most people should not. 99% of people should not own their own business. They should work a job. And it makes sense. But if you take, for example, someone that would work at, let's say, McDonald's at the start. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with McDonald's, but like at the start, you're working the register, or you're flipping burgers, because everyone always uses that term.
Yeah.
Okay, you may hate that, but would you like to run one of the franchises?
There's a huge
There's
career in
steps
Yeah.
to get to those places.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe you're in a job that you just don't love what you're currently doing, but you realize you have to start somewhere in a job.
Yeah.
So think about how you can go in with a new mindset of, I don't mind it here. I just want to do something else.
Yeah.
And how can you get there? It's also baby steps. Talk to your supervisors and talk to the people above them, or watch what they do and model what they do and think about their path and realize, okay, this manager's been here for 7 years. This manager's been here for 9 years. This I'm probably not going to be a manager tomorrow.
Right.
But you can build and eventually have the job that you might love.
Yeah.
But being negative Nancy over the situation will never get you to be a manager of the position.
No.
Right. Right.
So trying to think about, okay, I don't want to own my own business. That's not for me whatsoever. But I want to grow in this company. And how can you do it?
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that? Is that mindset alone makes you stand out.
Yeah, because no one's
No one
like
else
that.
is thinking
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So the moment you think like that, your actions change. Your actions start to change. You instantly are like, managerial leadership is like, who's
they-
that guy?
You start
They
to look
take
for
notice.
They
opportunities.
notice you.
Yes.
And you will make.
It's funny how people notice you when you actually work hard. Like,
Oh, my
Yes.
And when you're actually
interesting
happy,
concepts.
too.
Yeah.
You ever see
Yeah.
that? And people are like, "Oh, how you doing?" Like we just like the whole conversation
Yeah.
started. How you doing? Oh, I'm living the dream. If you literally
Yeah.
mean that, you know how much you stand out.
Yeah.
People actually are like, "Who the heck? Who's that guy?"
Especially in a place like McDonald's or let's just call it that kind of job, because most people there are miserable because it's like they're in the middle job of like, I just need a job right now. I'm not-
Right.
So when you actually work hard for these franchises
yeah.
that are big, it is so easy
Yep.
to move on.
to move up in those places.
Yeah.
Because most people don't want to. And you think that people aren't making money at these franchises as big managers and general managers and franchise owners of these places, but it's, can you be happy enough and work hard enough in the basic, boring job that you got?
Right.
Like, I thought so many times how, like, I would love, but I don't know if I'd ever actually do it, to get the most basic, lame, boring job ever at some franchise and like document a year straight of like, how far can I move up a ladder in a business by simply changing the mindset of going after something
That'd be so fun.
and literally just trying to get a job at like any place
Be such a cool
and trying
experience.
so hard to go all out
Yeah.
to see if I could jump the ladder, because I'm confident
Yes.
oh,
that anyone could do it.
Agreed.
if they actually try to do it.
Right.
Because most people just do the bare minimum. They clock out and they leave. And when you show up and do things differently, people notice. People feel like they're never going to be noticed for that in a big franchise, but you do. Because there's even less people that do it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it would just be a really, like, I probably will never do it because I don't know how I do it time wise. Like, but
Working for
I
it.
just think it would be fascinating
Yes.
to do
That'd be a
like
cool
be a cool
documentary.
documentary. Maybe someone could fund it and we could film that process of someone doing it.
Like over
so
a year's
cool.
time, imagine.
That would be really,
That'd be
really
so
cool.
fun to film.
Because I'm confident in most places you could probably
Yes.
get a pretty good management level job in under a year if you worked,
You could probably be even close to conversations of owning a franchise by that point.
depending on what franchise you work
Depends
for.
on what you
Yeah.
work for.
Yeah.
They literally conversations in 12 months, I guarantee, if you do it that hard,
Yeah.
do it that well.
That'd be a mad cool documentary.
That'd be really
for
cool.
sure.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So if you're
Anybody
watching
wants
this and you have money, a lot of it, we have an idea.
Yeah.
No, but I do think that's so. There's the one side of look at how if you think you want to own your own thing or do your own thing,
Right.
start putting something in place to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to move up in your current place, start putting things in place to do it.
Yep.
The whole concept being nothing changes by you doing nothing.
Yeah.
So that's 2 and 2.5.
So the next point that I have is this concept called unscheduling. Okay, so if you're
I'm
discontent,
getting nervous.
You're
I like schedules.
I was excited. Now I'm a little nervous now.
but it's still scheduling, but it's unscheduling. So essentially, the first thing, normally, right, the first thing we put in there is like 9 to 5, right?
Right.
But in this concept, the first thing you put in is you actually schedule your guilt-free play time. So the things that you can do that you're completely unplugged,
Right.
and you get to be creative in that. And that could be taking an art class or, a dance class or something for yourself that is guilt-free play.
Yep.
And then also put in your commitments as far as, your driving to work or church activities, kids stuff, things like that. Then put in your 9 to 5, because so many people, part of why they're discontent is because you don't have any playtime. One of the most important things for kids in development is actually play.
Right.
They learn so much in how they play and interact with other people. And then we grow up and we stop doing that. And that's when you stop learning and that's when you stop having fun. So I think that is a huge piece of the puzzle that most people don't do is schedule in guilt-free playtime.
I think that's great. And I think that the hardest part, I think, for people in that is that people always want to say like they just have no time.
Yeah.
You have plenty of time.
You do.
To do what the heck you want to do with it. I had to work from 6 p.m. when I got home, 5 p.m. to midnight or whatever, building this business for years and years and years. It was a choice of what I did with the time that I had.
Yes.
And you can all yes, I know that I can feel like I don't have a lot of time because I have family and I have to balance things, but I do know that like if I had a week to live or a month to live, or suddenly someone was like, I desperately need your help for 2 hours. You think I couldn't find 2 hours? Or an hour or 30 minutes or something? You'd find the time if you needed to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and I think there is sacrifice in that of I didn't hang out with a lot of friends, and even to this day, I still only have so much time that I really can spend on other things because seasons are different.
Yep.
Like family and work are kind of, and my church are like the only real things that I can put high priority to. And then I have a tiny bit of time. But I've had that switch over the last 6 months of trying to hang out with people more and do things, because so many times I can make all the decisions I make be if they can bring money or value to work, they're a part of my life or work or family, and nothing else. And it's like I realize that that's not good either. It's like why we picked up disc golf and why I picked up other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Is to try to create hobbies that didn't bring me a monetary value or something else, but just because I realize my brain needs to just do something other than work every once in a while.
Yeah.
Or else you can feel like you're just kind of on this nonstop hamster wheel.
Right.
But I think that, finding that unscheduled time I love, and it's just, I think makes a lot of sense to just realize you have time.
Yeah.
Just think about what you're going to do with it.
And if you learn a lot about the brain,
Right.
I think it was like a year and a half ago, I was like obsessed with reading books about the brain. But when you are constantly working, your brain is actually not in the creative mode the majority of that time. So when you schedule in this play concept, and it's in a lot of books about the brain, is that it actually allows you the freedom for your brain to work the way that it's supposed to work.
Right.
Why do you think you get so many great ideas like in the shower or
because you're not doing something else.
because you're not doing something else. Like your brain is, it's like taking Spanx off your brain. I don't know, you guys know what Spanx are? It's like a female thing.
All right. This just got weird. That's good.
Yeah. I hope you turn this around.
But anyway.
Feel free to edit this out if you need to. But like, it allows you to just use your brain in the way that it was meant to be used.
Because your brain wants to work. It's just a matter of letting it work in different areas, I think is what it is. Because if
and it's stretching it.
You have to stretch it. That's right.
Yes.
It's like not doing the same workout every so I hate working out, but like I know that they say you should change up what your muscles do or else so it doesn't get used to things.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
But that's why I think like from a video perspective, if you're like a video person, why I so recommend like doing YouTube stuff for yourself.
Right.
Because you're the client. You're doing it for no money other than value and excitement and your own creativity with no one having to oversee anything. It makes you do something that is not just simply tied to like the work, the client, the task. It's like it makes you create what you want to create. It makes you also see what you really love creating because what do you do when there's no money attached? Really tells you what you love doing.
Exactly.
So as soon as you start to create YouTube videos, if you're a filmmaker, even if you're not a filmmaker, you start to naturally talk and do what you really like to do.
Yeah.
Because it's not tied to what money you're making from it.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of freelancers, I'm sure, that are always like chasing, like, oh, I wish I got paid to do video, paid to do video. Now that I'm on the other side of it, where I am paid every day to do video, I'm like, man, I just want to do a free project here or there because there's nobody on top of me to do anything.
Yeah.
Like when I get an open timeline and I have no one to tell me what to do, it's like the most like relaxing thing for me to be able to, because I can just be creative, and I love that. And I've actually heard someone say that too, where like it applies to like what you do, but it also applies to who you're with as well. Like if you're hanging out with people that don't make you money, make you happy, or make you better, or if you're doing an activity that doesn't make you money, make you happy, or make you better, then it's like I don't know you. I don't know what that thing is, because it has to be one of those three things for it to be like bring you value back. You know what I mean? And a lot of people I think just focus on the money part, but you have to be happy for anything, because that transfers over to all sorts of other things.
Oh yeah.
And then also making yourself better as well. You need to be stretched.
Yes.
And so I think it's important, like you can't just be chasing money the whole time. You have to be made happy.
Right.
You also have to be stretching yourself, because that all plays a factor into your actual outcome.
I read an article 2 days ago. Okay. It was on medium.com. Do you ever? Yeah.
Heard of it.
So he was talking about productivity in the workplace and that the most productive countries have 6-hour work days.
Okay.
And they're actually paid more because they're more productive in the time, because a lot of them use that extra time to either be with family or do things that they love or, have that guilt-free playtime. Sure. So then when they are on, they are better at producing because they're happier.
Right.
Yeah, I think we talked about
interesting.
Yeah, and I think obviously every industry is different in that, but it's the same reason like that I've started to reformat even like how I allocate tasks even to editors of trying to make multiple things that people do in a day versus one project that is all day.
Yeah.
Because your brain has to be able to like switch gears for that. And it's the same reason I think we talked about that on one podcast about the with personalities and relationships of realizing like some people need things that other people don't, and giving them an extra hour or giving them the flexibility to work here or work there or do things. It's understanding how like there are some people that are unbelievably productive out of an office. There are some people that do nothing when they're out of the office, but it's like, what can you do to put people in the right position? Yeah. So I think the 6-hour workday thing, because there's been so many studies of different things like that, and it's like, I think that it can work in a lot. I think that it doesn't work in some. I think that it just really depends. Yep. I think the concept more is that you're actually just giving them more freedom with their other time. That internally they're feeling more productive because they're just doing more of what they want on other times. I don't think it has much to do with, like, without question, the brain can only function, and especially the creative field, for so long. Like you can't do a 14-hour editing task and be as effective 14 hours
Right.
into it.
Right.
But I think that there are some industries that you can work 14 hours straight and get the same productivity if it's like task-based and you're that kind of person.
Right.
So I don't think it works for everything, but I think the concept to me just feels like what it is you're just giving people freedom.
Yep.
And internally, their brain becomes happier, which makes them more productive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the last, let's just call it practical, but it's not even really practical. But think about your situation and realize, is the situation as bad as you're actually making it out to be?
Right.
And if you get to the situation you're dreaming of, will you actually be any happier? Because I think a lot of people are just in jobs and in situations that are fine, but they are nonstop just not content, coming back to the first part of it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And it's like, maybe you might take out of this whole thing, you know what, my job's not that bad. I've thought about it, I've processed it, I've journaled it, whatever.
Right.
And maybe your mindset, your next action point is like to start being more grateful, and it might change the whole situation.
Absolutely.
That it's not necessarily just hear this and know that no matter what situation you're in, look for the next opportunity.
Right.
It might be look at the situation you're in and realize it's not as bad as you're making it out to be.
That's right.
And how can you be a better employee? Think about the first time that you ever walked into that interview room with that smile and I plan to do this and I'm do this and I work with people and I'm really good and I'm positive and I'll bring up the energy. Be the person you were in the interview.
Yeah.
Right.
Because people didn't hire you as the person that you're currently at, probably. Like more times than not.
And be that person all the time. Like the next time that person, like anytime somebody asks you, how are you doing? Think about that before you answer. Like just like actually be grateful for what you have going on. Because if you're like that all the time, you have no idea who you're talking to ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
You might get a job literally just out of being positive because it happened to me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I talked to somebody years ago, and just because of the positive outlook, they were like, "Are you looking for work?"
Yeah.
Like, they were like, "Do you? We just like your attitude." And I was
Yeah.
like, I had no idea what I was even doing, but it's
Yeah.
because if you actually act that way all the time, you have no idea who you'll impact.
And surrounding yourself with people like you talked about that
Right.
are very honest with you to
Yes.
be able to point out like you're being a jerk and you're like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to, and if you don't have people that will actually tell you the honest truth, there's something wrong in the situation.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with people that are afraid
Yep.
to tell you the honest truth, and that will not make you better at all.
You have to be mature enough as well to take in what people say.
Right.
Because I think that's a piece of it too. 2 years ago, I asked one of my best friends, I said, do you see anything in me that you think is holding me back in life? And I'm like, I want you to answer it honestly. And she did. She did. And there was a part of it that like stung for a hot second.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I also was ready for it and I received it. So I think you have to be mature enough to receive as well. You need the good people around you,
Right.
but then you also have to have the willingness to hear.
Yeah.
And then I did work very specifically on that.
And to
People will tell your blind
hear, and to hear and not hear to respond is something I'm trying to listen to
or
too.
react.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we want to justify or come up with an
Yes.
excuse. Someone's like, "You were doing this." Like, yeah, but try to listen to feedback and not respond. It's really hard. But I've just learned that it's not. My best answers don't come from immediate reactions. They
Yes.
come from attempting to be like, "Thank you. Let me think about it when I'm not now offended in my head and be like, okay, you know what? That was valid." And then, because that's just the problem. We just don't like being told things we need to work on. We all think that we're perfect in most things we do. And so it's like, it's just hard sometimes. But
It's true.
But I think that we actually don't think that we're perfect. I think that I am so aware a lot of times of the things that I don't do well. And sometimes I'm my biggest critic. And I think, do you know what I'm trying to say?
I don't think that that's unique though. Because
Yes, I was
a
gonna say.
lot of people are not aware.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Is what I would think.
And it's not even that you're thinking you're perfect. It's that you naturally always do what you think is correct in anything you do.
Yeah.
So as soon as someone says to do something different, the instinct is, who are like,
Who are you? Yeah.
I'm correct, you're not.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I don't even think it's necessarily that you're actually thinking you're perfect as much
Yeah.
as hearing feedback and realizing that they could be right is just a different mindset.
Right,
but most
right.
people are not that way.
Right.
You are like, because I think both of you, I would say that you're both not that kind of person at all that like thinks that they're perfect.
yeah.
But I think a lot of people are.
Sure.
Because I know that when I started a business, it's very hard to get out of the mindset of like, you're not always right because naturally you always had to be
Yeah.
when you were by yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
That once you start working with people,
Yeah.
you have to be able to let go of things and be like, I've always done it this way.
Yeah.
But that's just because no one ever threw different ideas by me. And to me, it was really learning that like
Right.
there's actually value of not always
Yeah.
making the ultimate decision in certain
Right,
things.
right, yeah,
Because
for
you
sure.
learn or they learn, and it's always a great.
I think it's really fun actually to like listen to people just how they do, like see like, okay, oh, you do it that way? That's interesting. Like, you know, in the back of your head, like, that's wrong maybe. But like, you're like, you know what? Open mind just to listen. Doesn't mean you have to do it.
Or like, why do you do it that way? Just curious.
Yeah.
Like, asking.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
That's
So then you'd be like, oh, interesting. Yeah, see, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I've just always done it that way because, but
There are
once
things
again, it's a
in life.
mindset.
It's true.
Right.
Do you
Being
wanna learn?
curious is a powerful
Being
powerful
curious,
thing, yeah.
being open to learning.
being open.
Learning.
Yeah.
That's right.
This was fun.
Yeah.
So
I thought this was a great conversation. Hopefully you guys can take away some really practical things like journaling, writing down the things that you're grateful for.
Right.
You know, starting small, being smart with your time and investing, having conversations with people who maybe are where you want to be. You can learn so much from other people.
Drinking coffee.
And yeah, exactly. We always love to hear, obviously, from you watching. So if you're watching or listening, we'd love for you to just comment, and whether it's takeaway from the podcast or what things you've done to improve your situation, because there's lots to learn from people that actually have improved
Yes.
their situation. So
Yeah.
make sure you comment or DM us on any platform or
Share.
whatever. Share this if you know someone that's hating their job. Maybe this will be the way that you can tell them what you maybe you resonated with some of this and you want to say it, but you're afraid they're gonna be offended. But maybe if you like
Share
push this
it.
podcast to them, we can be your person to help in the situation. So yeah, but interact. We don't do this to talk to ourselves. We do it to
Yeah.
have conversations with you. So comment, share,
All the things.
all the things. You know those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.